I'm going to tell the story of J.W. Nixon II. His reputation for having the gift of healing. When he went on his mission in California, he blessed a young man who was supposed to be on his deathbed and survived, and on several other occasions. But one instance that we want to remember is when his daughter Myrtle died. She was about 16 years of age and had an appendicitis attack. And according to Dennis, he was rushing to the doctor and to rush back, and he didn't make it back in time. And he was always sorry that he wasn't able to give her a blessing in order to help her live instead of die. That was a very hard time in his life. Dennis, did you have something you want to add?
Yes, I recall when Grandma Olive and I were talking one time, and we used to talk a lot because I used to work in the garden side by side her, and she was telling me about her sister Myrtle, how that about 2 weeks before she had passed away, that she and Myrtle were up in the attic of the Mercantile there in Huntsville. Huntington. Yeah, up in Huntington. And that Myrtle had gotten into a coffin and said, "This is the one I want to be buried in," which was kind of ominous. And 2 weeks later, she died from this appendicitis. And as we talked about earlier, James W. rode his horse to death on his effort to get a doctor and get back there, who the doctor did not come until the next day after she had passed away.
So his horse actually died?
His horse died, yes, because he had ridden it so hard. And
how many miles did he have to go?
Well, I'm thinking it somehow in my mind it's about 20 miles, but I'm not exactly positive because it's been a while since I read the
I can't remember how far Price is from Huntington.
How did he get back if his horse died?
By the time he got back, the horse died, dear. He rode it there and then rode back.
And then what happened? What did J.W. give the doctor?
Oh, the doctor knocked on the door, and J.W. was just a little put out, and he says, "You're too late," and handing him a $5 gold piece and shut the door on him.
It was a hard time for him.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. And he was very prosperous in Huntington. There's records where he would ship carloads of honey and alfalfa seed to the east. He made a lot of money in Huntington. And then they felt that, or Effie, his wife, just didn't feel that the children were getting the best education in that area. So she wanted to move to Provo. And so they did, and they bought this very, very nice home in Provo, which had belonged to a former senator. And then somewhere in my records down below, he cautions his posterity to never mortgage their home for business purposes. And I think this is what they did, is they mortgaged this beautiful home for them to have this Bonita Theater. Because they had a theater in Huntington as well. And you've got to remember, this is in the 20s. This is when movies were just beginning. There was first the silent, and then toward the end of the 20s, the sound came in. But they mortgaged this big home in order to obtain the Bonita Theater in Provo, and things went sour, and they lost their home. And he advises all of his posterity to never mortgage your home for business purposes. And as a result, he ended up having to start all over again. Here he had been prosperous, and he ended up becoming an insurance salesman. And he traveled all over Utah and Idaho selling insurance and did fairly well before they retired in California. So,
I believe
Yeah, Loretta, if you want to just say a little bit about how brokenhearted he was when he lost Myrtle and how that affected his life, we'll tag that onto Myrtle's part. Because you were saying something about that bit.
well, it was very hard for him to accept the death of Myrtle. I think Aunt Grace, told me one time that she didn't say you're not supposed to have favorites, but he thought a great deal of her, and then to have her taken from him, it broke his heart. Broke his heart. And I'm sure it did, as well as Effie Dean was broken as well. But they were great examples for all of us that to never give up when things go wrong for us, that we just keep going and don't lose our testimonies when we lose everything.